There have been quite a lot of budget phones coming out the gate this Q1, and to be honest, they're not that far apart in the way they're designed, with internals that weren't exactly made to impress anybody. But of course, no two phones are built the same, so we have to shed light where it counts. For instance, this Oppo A78 comes with a huge 5000 mAh battery, an IPS LCD display up to 90Hz, stereo speakers, a 50 megapixel camera, and even RAM expansions up to 16 gigs. All for the price of only 1,099 ringgit. Sounds like a bargain, right? That may be true, but other options out there might make you think twice if an appealing price tag is the main consideration. But however you view value, let's see if this Oppo A78 gives you a good run for your money and if budget is even the right word to use. From afar, there's nothing out of the ordinary. Following most designs brought over from 2022, it has straight-cut edges and a flat display, which is also raised quite a bit from the frame. A very responsive side fingerprint sensor at the right, a headphone jack, and a notable large secondary speaker up top. While it doesn't actually feel cheap in the hands, weighing approximately 188 grams, the color we have with us here does look best when sunlight hits it just right. There's also just a little texture difference at the back stating the innovative AI cameras, which we'll get into in just a second. While it may seem light in the hands, the speakers are notably loud and more than enough to keep things audible in a public setting, considering how there's also an ultra volume mode, which boosts the volume up to 200%, whether you're using headphones or solely relying on the loudspeakers alone. But of course, don't expect the highest quality in rich tones you'd get from a regular flagship, but the occasional doom scrolling on IG Reels or videos on YouTube or Netflix would still keep you engaged. Movie viewing experiences goes untarnished too, with the 90Hz 6.56-inch IPS LCD display maxing out at 600 nits peak brightness, but it may not be the most suitable for higher refresh games. But comparing the screen you get here to the Super AMOLED 90Hz display of the Realme 10, one may argue the questionable decisions by Oppo for pricing this phone higher and getting less. Chipset performance gets a decent run for the price, equipped with a MediaTek Dimensity 700 and Mali G57, scoring 682 for single core and 1736 for multi-core on Geekbench. Graphics performance isn't that great, managing only 7.2 frames per second, which might be a little more visible when gaming. It still gets an overall score of 1201 on our 3D Mark Wildlife test and shows just a little temperature increase, but nothing too out of the ordinary. This could help most when it comes to power consumption, as the large battery on this phone will likely be a 2-day runner with a 5000 mAh battery. But in case it does die out on you earlier than it claims, it still comes with a 33-watt Super VOOC fast charger that will get it back to 100% under 30 minutes. Cameras, on the other hand, justify the price range a little more, as you only get a 50-megapixel f1.8 main camera and a 2-megapixel depth sensor. In most occasions, there's still some computations involved for balancing out highlights and shadows. It retains some high dynamic range when HDR is enabled and even manages most of the colors decently. But let's be real here, they aren't of the highest quality, and we wouldn't even want to begin getting into depth for its video performance, which also gets a solid C+ in our books. The Oppo A78 comes with Android 12, 8 gigs of RAM and 128 gigs of storage, priced at 1,099 ringgit or 399 Singapore dollars. Other options in this price range, like the Realme 10, comes with a better Super AMOLED screen, a much better 16-megapixel front-facing camera, but at the same time you lose out on some stereo speakers and a slightly smaller screen real estate of 6.4 inches. It depends on what's important to you. All in all, the Oppo A78 isn't quite the budget phone we'd hope to be seeing in 2023, considering how previous builds of the Poco and Zen phones of late seem to have more value. Regardless of this gap or the matter of price over quality, it will always be an ongoing pursuit for both consumers and manufacturers. There's still a big market for phones like the Oppo A78. However, to you who's watching, this is feeling out to be more cheap rather than budget, so maybe look elsewhere.